what happens when a toxic person doesn't fit every symptom of a narcissist? Does it mean they're not a narcissist, or does it mean something else? This is what's so perplexing about narcissists in relationships of any kind. See, their manipulation and control tactics can be pervasive and confusing. They're subtle, sort of hard to detect, especially if you haven't been taught to watch for this stuff. If you're anything like I was when I first recognized that I was dealing with a narcissist in a relationship, it's going to be kind of a slap in the face for you. You probably thought you were the problem, thanks to months or years of conditioning from the narcissist telling you that you were always wrong, directly or indirectly. You might have had sort of a sneaking sensation that something was going on, that something just didn't seem right, but you were taught to believe the worst about yourself and taught to see the narcissist as nearly infallible. This is especially true if you've been raised by a toxic parent or otherwise closely influenced by a narcissist in childhood. Since narcissistic abuse can be so hard to detect from the inside, and since gaslighting, which is the narcissist's most often employed manipulation tactic, involves causing you to question your reality and even your own thoughts and perceptions, it makes total sense that you might miss it, and that you'd question yourself and the validity of the assessment that you made once you do figure it out. So this leaves us with the question, can someone be a narcissist if they don't lie? And if they can, how is it possible? And what does that look like? So is the honest narcissist a myth? Is there really such a thing as a narcissist who doesn't lie? Well, first it's important to note that narcissists, they come in all shapes and sizes. Not every narcissist has every symptom or sign listed in the criteria for the diagnosis of narcissistic personality disorder. Covert narcissists, for example, they defy the typical narcissist profile by appearing to be shy and introverted. And some narcissists don't cheat. Some narcissists are wealthy and controlling and workaholics, while others are lazy parasites who seem to do nothing but drain you dry. Some are obsessively clean, while others won't shower for weeks. Some are neat freaks, others are hoarders. And despite what most people think, some narcissists lie to you, and there are some who don't seem to be pathological liars. It doesn't even seem possible, right? But very often, when you're dealing with an altruistic narcissist or a communal narcissist, they'll seem to be very ethical and morally bound. And this is especially true when they're using their religion as part of the plan to control you. But it doesn't always involve religion. Still, while these so-called upstanding citizens might seem to be above reproach, they still control, devalue, manipulate, and demoralize the people closest to them. They still seem to suck all the energy in the air out of every room, and they could still be called narcissists and abusers. And it's true that they may never outright lie to you. However, they do pull a little trick that might be considered dishonest or at least manipulative, sort of like finding their own little lie loopholes. So that's exactly how the narcissist uses honesty to control you. Some narcissists are going to tell you that they are the most honest person they know, and they really seem like they live up to that claim. You literally can't think of a single time they lied to you. You trust their word despite the way they otherwise treat you, and most likely you blame yourself for anything that goes wrong in that relationship. But while that might be technically true, there's something else going on here. They're still abusing you on so many levels. Rather than lying, they use a tactic that I like to call a manipulated shift in perception, where they heavily influence your thoughts and your feelings using manipulation and gaslighting. But how can they manipulate your perception without lying? Let's talk about it. First, the brutal truth statement. At some point in your relationship, this kind of narcissist makes it totally clear to you that they don't lie. They will say it has to do with religious or moral reasons, or they'll say they were hurt in a previous relationship, so they need to be fully themselves. Or maybe you told them in the beginning of your relationship that you were hurt by lying in the past, so they'll take this as an opportunity to be completely uncensored with you. You might even appreciate the honesty at first, or feel like you should anyway, because it seems fresh and different. In some cases, they might even just tell you they're brutally honest, and if you don't like it, you know where the door is. But see, now they feel like they never need to concern themselves with your feelings, and they feel like you've given them permission to do so, which kind of brings me to my next point, number 2, implied permission to insult and belittle you. They use this whole brutal honesty thing as an excuse to insult and belittle you. They might tell you you're unattractive, or that outfit looks really bad on you, or they might openly criticize you about bigger things, anything from your cooking to your housekeeping skills, or how you are in bed, how you raise your kids, things like that. Anything that crosses their mind is going to just pop out of their mouth without consideration for how it makes you feel. Not only is their lack of empathy painfully clear in the way they speak to you, but so is their apparent disdain for everything you are. That leaves them waiting for your reaction, which brings me to number 3. Your rejection is rejected. Yeah, This kind of disrespect and constant unfair criticism, it upsets you and it confuses you, as it would anyone. You confront the narcissist, or at least question them about what they've said to you, about the way they treat you. You're angry, or you're sad, or you're feeling otherwise negatively, and maybe you ask the narcissist, hey, can you just be nicer to me? You ask them, how would you feel if I spoke to you the way you speak to me? But rather than offer you any validation or reassurance of their love for you, they just laugh at you or scream in your face. They absolutely reject your reaction to their abuse. They say you don't have the right to be angry. You can't be sad. They say you asked for this kind of honesty and that you knew what they were like from day one. And that brings me to number 4, you're put in your place. The narcissist continues to minimize your feelings and treat you like you're unimportant, like you don't matter. They remind you that your feelings aren't valid and that you don't have the right to feel anything about this situation, because only the narcissist has feelings that matter. They imply that you're stupid for not being already aware of this little unwritten rule by now, and clearly, this leads me to my next point, number 5, they justify their behavior. Well, they'll say, you always say you don't want me to lie to you. You claim you want the truth, but obviously you're the liar here because you can't handle the truth. No matter how horribly they've treated you, they will never admit any wrongdoing or take any responsibility for hurting your feelings. Everything they've done up to this point, they'll swear, has been in the name of being honest with you and everyone else. They'll make it a moral thing. That brings me to number 6. Then they play on your fears to keep you in control. And this is where it gets really sticky. See, when you don't just agree that you're the total piece of poo that the narcissist wants you to believe that you are, they're really going to dig deep and begin to play on all of your biggest fears. And if you keep feeling upset or angry at them for being so rude and so disrespectful to you, or if you refuse to agree with that assessment of you that they've made, they're going to start with the threats. They'll say things like, well, if you're going to be mad at me every time I tell you the truth, I might as well just start lying to you. Of course, this leads me to my next point, number 7, you're triggered into submission. This is where the narcissist will actively exploit your fears and push your buttons. They're going to trigger you to get you deeply enmeshed with them and under their control. Basically, they're manipulating and controlling you by presenting themselves as upfront and brutally honest. If this is a non-parent relationship, you probably initially found this quite refreshing since other people in your life have hurt you by lying and playing games. Your narcissist knows this. Your history of trauma in relationships, in fact, is exactly what makes you vulnerable to feeling triggered when they threaten to lie to you. And since your behavior during a trigger moment is far less rational and more self-protective, the narcissist accomplishes several things to get you to submit to them in this moment. You're feeling scattered and confused, first of all, and that makes you easier to control and manipulate because of the stress and the sort of primal mode that you're in when you feel triggered by one of your biggest fears. You're not as logical as usual. And then, of course, the second thing they accomplish is you start to feel crazy and you start to doubt your perception once the full effect of gaslighting kicks in. In fact, you might even find yourself feeling dependent on the narcissist to tell you what you see, what you think in some cases. And now, not only are they controlling your actions, but also your thoughts and your feelings. Your fears are used to keep you in place. The narcissist has established that you can and will be moved by your fear of losing them or your fear of being alone. And if you're anything like I was, one of your biggest fears is being the last one to know that your relationship is over. You are afraid of being humiliated in a situation where you're the only one who doesn't know what's happening in your own relationship. You've been there. Well, another common fear that a lot of us have is that some toxic person in our lives was right and we actually are doomed to not being good enough or otherwise deficient forever. And then there's, of course, that most common human fear that we're all kind of embarrassed to talk about out loud, but we all have, the fear of having no one, the fear of abandonment. And then there's the trauma bond factor. You get deeper and deeper into that trauma bond as you go through this. You become enmeshed with the narcissist. They control you through the active infliction of their own perception. They teach you and make sure that you don't forget that their needs are always more important than your own. They make you feel like you're not even a real person and that your feelings, your thoughts, or ideas, they're not relevant or worth expressing, not to mention worth actually hearing or implementing. That, of course, prevents you from ever reaching your full potential as you lose yourself a little more each day. It changes you. Narcissistic abuse. And it could limit you forever if you allow it to. Now, if you'd like to learn more about how trauma bonding works and how to heal from it, definitely take a look at the playlist I'm going to leave for you in the description below as well as in the pinned comment. This playlist is going to help you learn how to stand up for yourself and really begin the healing process, as well as educating you about trauma bonding and healing from narcissistic abuse. This brings me to the question of the day. And the question of the day is, have you ever met an honest narcissist? Could you relate to our discussion today and the type of manipulation that an honest narcissist might actually use against you? Have you ever experienced anything like this? Share your thoughts, share your ideas, share your experiences in the comment section below, and let's talk about it. If you have experienced this, please go ahead and leave a comment because it might help another survivor learn that they're not alone in all of this, and it might help them heal just a little faster. As always, thank you so much for being a part of my day and a part of my life, and hey, thanks for letting me be a part of yours. It really does mean a lot to me. Now, before I go, make sure you take a look at the videos I'm going to leave for you right there and right there. And while we're here, hit the subscribe button right over there so we can stay connected and continue on this healing journey together. I'll see you soon.